Many of our speakers tonight have given thanks to people. I would like to thank Shelley very, very much on behalf of PFLAG Brisbane for organising a wonderful event this evening and so many very, very interesting speakers tonight. I would never have believed that there were so many different aspects to discussing marriage equality, and I think we've heard them all this evening. For a mother, for a woman, giving birth to your baby is a hugely significant event in your life. It's a massive occasion, both physically and emotionally. You experience a huge outpouring of love and emotion when the baby is actually born into the world, and that love remains for the rest of your life. I've got 4 children, 4 lovely children, and I know I will love them all until my last breath. We've always loved them unconditionally, totally. Well, maybe except for just a few occasions, such as, we had just put a new glass door into the house in Longreach when one of the boys charged down the garden straight into it and put a big crack down it. Or the youngest one developed a habit, don't know where it came from, of driving through red traffic lights until he got a fine that came through to my licence. And we've always treated them absolutely equally. When they were young, they had matching toys. We've got 2 sets of children, 2 slightly older ones, 2 older ones, a girl and a boy, and then 2 younger boys. And the girl and the boy had matching green big tractors, plastic tractors and trailers to drive along outside in the mud. That was when we lived in Scotland. And if the daughter went to Highland dancing lessons, and the boy had to go as well, even though he wasn't very happy about it. And if the boy had to go out and feed the animals, feed the chickens or the pigs, then the daughter was sent out to feed as well. And that's the way we've always done it. All 4 of our children were encouraged, if not pushed, into university, although perhaps not entirely at their own will. But we definitely believed that equality of educational opportunity was a must for all 4 of them. Our eldest 2 children are married, and we now have 5 gorgeous grandchildren. We celebrated both their weddings in the usual way, a ceremony, a party, lots of relatives and friends, too much to drink, and probably some pretty ordinary speeches. One was married down in the Dandenongs, north of Melbourne, and the other at Canungra, south of Brisbane. Both beautiful places to hold a ceremony to celebrate their love with their partners. And we now look forward to celebrating the weddings of our last 2 children, the 2 younger boys. At which point, I suppose I have to mention that our youngest son is gay. When I think of Simon, I think of him with his dry wit, his intelligent conversation, his ability to drive through red traffic lights. I just don't think of him as gay. He's just one of our lovely children, one of our growing and ever-expanding family. To continue the equality that we have always shown our 4 children, I'm looking forward to the occasion in the future, the celebration, the wedding, the party, to mark Simon's marriage, if he so desires it, if he goes down that track with his loving partner in the future. I am a Christian, and I go to church every Sunday to be in the presence of God, and I play 2nd cornet in the brass band, so I don't need to tell you which church I go to. My belief is that in the eyes of God, every person has value, worth, and dignity, every person. In the Bible, God instructs us, you must see that justice is done and must show kindness and mercy to one another. Do not oppress widows, orphans, foreigners who live among you, or anyone else in need. And do not plan ways of harming one another. My work with PFLAG has made me aware of how much harm is still being done to our gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, intersex and queer loved ones. We know all about the homophobia and transphobia that still occurs at some schools, on the streets and in some workplaces. Sometimes, very sadly, we hear about it within homes. As well as the deliberate homophobic bullying and vilification, there is a homophobia that comes from ignorance, or the homophobia people don't realize is homophobia, the words they use, the unwittingly hurtful remarks. The homophobia that is sustained by Australian legislation that does not regard its citizens equally. State and federal legislation that does not display equality for all citizens of this country fuels and sustains discrimination, homophobia, and violence. Without acknowledgement of same-sex relationships under the Marriage Act, there runs the very real risk of viewing same-sex relationships as somehow inferior to opposite-sex relationships, and consequently regarding gay, lesbian, transgender people as inferior second-class citizens. My youngest son, Simon, has an honours degree. He has a full-time job, and he's in a loving, stable, long-term partnership. He's only 23. He is not inferior, and he's not second class. So we ask the federal government to treat all our children equally and allow them all to marry under the Australian Marriage Act, to demonstrate an extension of God's love for all his people, to reflect our parental love for all our children, and our huge desire to see them recognised as equal citizens in Australia. Mr. Abbott and your senior colleagues, the party room, if you are truly a Christian, please show justice and mercy to all in Australia. Thank you.